Do we, is there's not a,
Hey, Mike. Good. Along with the million of other emails you get?
It's temporary. If you guys are okay with for overtime, the guy.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Hawaii. Ay, no, se deja. Estaba debating si me tenía que ir.
How you doing, all right? All right, all right. Good evening. I'm sorry. Let me cut right in, sorry about that. Good evening all. Tonight is May 16th. It's about 6:35. We're going to begin the Public Safety Committee meeting. To my left is City Councilor Gladys LeBron Martinez, and to my right is Josie Valentin. And I am City Councilor Dan Breston. In the audience, we have City Councilor Linda Vacon, and Mike McManus has been good enough to join us from the DPW. I'm going to table item 1.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take item 2.
All in
Off the
favor?
table.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Order that a representative of the building department come before the city council to discuss any change in permit fees for residential and commercial property owners within the city of Holyoke. I spoke to Damien. I'll read this into the record. Dear committee members, it has been asked to address any changes to the permit fees within the building department, specifically for residential and commercial property owners. The short answer to this question is that there have not been any changes to our fee structure. They are set by ordinance except for those fees not accounted for. We do foresee a change in the future to our permitting process. The change will be for paper submittals of plans, documents, etc. Once we move to a 100% online permitting, rather than make online digital permitting mandatory as some communities have, we will likely look to assess a small fee for the time it'll take to process all the paper. This is months, if not a year away. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Damien Cody. I did ask him a follow-up question. Basically, that said, Damien, as a follow-up, what is considered a commercial versus residential permit charge? And just so you know, the reason I ask this is that, if an owner of a two-family goes to get a porch to redo his permit, was he being charged at a commercial rate? Because that's what I was being told. Damien said that is not actually the case. 1 to 2 families is strictly residential for everything as far as the fee permit. Everything from a 3-family and above falls primarily within the commercial code. So I filed the order. I'm comfortable with that answer. I would accept the motion that it's tabled, unless anyone has...
Tabled or complied with?
Complied with, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you,
Motion
thank you.
that the order is complied with?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take item 3 off the table? Unless you want to go out of order for something.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's fine. Item 3 is order that the city engineer, DPW, review the intersection of Hamden Street and Nonotuck Street to ensure that the lighting configuration and signage are adequate and ensure a safe way for drivers on Nonotuck Street to enter onto Hamden Street, and for those drivers on Hamden Street to exit onto Nonotuck Street. Further, have a representative of the police department provide the total of all accidents that have occurred at this location over the past 5 years. Take it away, Mike.
Okay, so at this intersection, Hamden Street is a through street, and Nonotuck has a stop sign and a red flashing beacon on both approaches. A traffic study hasn't been performed to see if a signal, an actual traffic signal would be warranted, but based on the traffic study that was done as part of the Dunkin' Donuts project, I don't think that there would be enough traffic coming from the Nonotuck approaches to justify a traffic signal. There are other warrant conditions, such as accidents. I think that there needs to be 5 accidents that could be prevented by a traffic signal. And if that's the case, then a signal might be warranted. So we would need the information from the police, which I don't have. But in the meantime, one thing that we could do is try to improve the sight distance for the approaches on Nonotuck Street, either going through, continuing through Hamden, or turning onto Hamden Street. And the way that we've done that in the past is by putting gore lines in the parking lanes at the intersection. And the gore lines are just an indication of no parking in this area. So if people are parking too close to the intersection, you can't really see if traffic's coming down the street. You have to creep forward, and it could cause a problem. So we've done that on, I think it was Center Street. And you know, we heard a positive response from that. So our recommendation would be to start with painting the gore lines and seeing if that improves sight distance and safety at the intersection before we go further evaluating a traffic signal.
You know, I don't know if it'll help also, but the corner, the no parking right at the near the corners, because that's what has the blind spots for people. It continues to be in many places, and I don't think that's being reinforced. Like, you know, the regulations, even if it says do not park at the corner, people still parking, and that causes people not to see, and they jump out. But I don't know if that's the case there. But I don't know what the issue is, but.
I think one issue at this intersection is the restaurant, the breakfast place, where people are parking kind of close to Nonotuck Street on Hampden. And if you're traveling west on Nonotuck Street, your sight distance up Hampden is blocked by those vehicles.
Yeah, it was just the chief of police did respond. There was very few accidents at that intersection, and I agree. They've got, you know, the Highland Hardware, the breakfast shop, the candy store,
Picks.
the bar, right? So I mean, it is a busy. So you get people parking on both sides of that street, whether they're going to get candy or whether they're going to get a bicycle. So you got to kind of creep out a little bit. I mean, I would absolutely defer to you, but the traffic accidents that the chief presented were not on any level of major concern, as far as as far as his opinion was, you know. I just want to, if I could give me one pause in a moment, I've asked Ryan to track something down for me so I could read I believe I have the chief's thoughts on that. So, but your consideration is, could you say that again, is what? What are your thoughts are?
We would paint gore lines in the road. Those are the hash marks that would indicate no parking within 15 feet of the intersection on all approaches to the intersection, to try to help people not park too close and open up the sight distance.
Yeah, because I know right in front of that breakfast shop, there's a handicap spot.
We could move it a little bit if needed.
Well, I mean, is that a daunting task? Is that something that, I mean,
It's not. We're going to be painting the crosswalks there at some point in the near future anyways.
Okay.
And we could do it at that time.
Think that's all right?
I would recommend starting there.
Okay.
And if it continues to be a problem, then we could look for another solution.
All right.
Make a motion that the order's been complied with.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Motion to take item 4 off the table.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Order that the DPW meet with representatives from Hoyok Community College and residents of the neighborhood with respect to mitigation of traffic issues in the Sunset Ashley Clayton Road neighborhood. When the new light was added, Hoyok Community College representatives addressed concerns of the residents. No, if negative.
Should say and.
Yeah, and no, if negative consequences occurred. They would work to reduce the negative effects caused by traffic. This order was filed by Councilor Vacon. So if you want to open it up?
Okay, sure. And Mike was good enough to come out and meet with the residents out at Mrs. Mitchell's for a community meeting. I think we had over 60 people there. I think it was a record. And he gave them a number of options of what might be helpful in the neighborhood. And it'll come up in item 6 again. But following that, and where Mike gave us some, what would you call them? Sketch representations
Yeah.
of what could be done. The neighbors did file a petition, which was filed with City Council, which I hope is in your committee by now, to ask for reconstruction of the road, Sunset, and other nearby roads to address the cut-through concerns, and that relates to the order relative to the hearing.
Didn't we talk about, thank you, Ryan. Didn't we talk about Jersey barriers at one meeting? As far as
Yes.
that were
Yeah, that's
coming out?
essentially
Yes.
what we would do. We would dead end both Sunset and Ashley.
And so that was one idea, and then once the petition was filed, then there's a number of requirements that have to be met. So before we could have the hearing, we have to have a report from you, Mike. And what I wasn't clear about is if the recommendations that you brought to the public meeting, the citizen meeting, could be just sent to committee, and then that counts as the report.
I can look into that to see if it would meet the requirements of
Okay.
what's needed.
Which it seemed like it should. And then, the next step would be to have the public hearing
Right.
and hear back from the people what they would like to try.
And would the public hearing be at city council, or would it be at DPW? Through the Board of Public
I
Works?
think it could be here at, Safety Committee. I don't know that it specifies. I think that might be at the discretion of the chair or you,
I mean, because we've had public hearings
right?
in various places, I don't think the venue.
It doesn't matter.
I think at least people are familiar with coming down here. I think a little bit more than down to DPW, but.
Right.
I didn't know, but I think you have to have the report, right, Dan, before we can proceed to the public hearing. And my recommendation to the people, and I don't even know if it's possible, was to try something temporary first, to see what the impact is, before you go for a permanent change. Is that doable?
Right, I mean, temporary, if the most extreme temporary would be Jersey barriers.
Yeah.
Like Dan said, just drop some Jersey barriers down, put some signage up that says road closed, and see what that does. And then if the Jersey barriers are effective at reducing the cut-through, which they should,
Unless they're
Right.
going there with a tank.
then we could look at a more permanent solution, and whether that's curbing and lawn or bollards, and where you could, continue a bicycle through or something.
Right, and where emergency vehicles could still get through.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so does that sound correct to you, Dan, that you would get the report from Mike and then on your next agenda, notice the hearing, and I could let the neighbors know for the next meeting?
I'd like to have a meeting next month.
That would be awesome.
A couple of things that I wanted, that just came my way that I want to take care of.
That would be great. I mean, I'm already getting calls because people are parking all over, they're turning around in people's driveways.
HEC's kind of getting out.
Right.
Yeah. I think if it was a matter of a low-cost fix, it wouldn't be a big deal. But if there is some cost involved, at the very beginning of this project, these concerns were raised. And so I think it would be reasonable for us to at least look for a cost sharing for whatever costs would be incurred.
What, from the residents, or?
No, from HCC.
Oh, okay.
Because at the time, they tried to get it so that that light would not be encouraging people to cut through the neighborhood. But because it was a Mass DOT light, I guess we couldn't put any restrictions on it. So,
I'm just looking through my emails, folks, so please.
so that was a statement made at the time. And a number of the people that were at that meeting are still at HCC, so there's some institutional memory. So if we can count that as the report, the ordinance, when I read it, seemed pretty general. It said the petition must be filed, then a report must be filed, then a hearing must be held. If we have to check with legal, but.
How do you want to handle it moving forward? Do you want to hold on to it? Is it complied with?
So I think item 4, other than HCC wasn't there, but we can pull them in later. I would call that complied with because all the mitigation options were reviewed, right, Mike?
Correct.
Yeah.
Motion that item 4 has been complied with.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Lynn, I know you just said that there was a couple, I mean, is there anything that we could put together?
Well, item 6
6 kind of went with 4.
Okay.
speaks to that next step.
So what are your thoughts on 6?
On 6, I would like to table that
All right, then we'll just go.
to receive the report.
Yeah.
And also, when we have the public hearing, I would like to invite HCC. I think that might be.
Sure.
I mean, not that they
Do you
would
know- do you-
necessarily come, but
Do
that
you know
they'll.
anybody that works at HCC is the question. That's what we,
That's a rhetorical question. Well, something like this, I mean, it should definitely be Bill Fogarty, who's our VP of Admin and Finance. He oversees, the construction stuff, so I can definitely get him to attend as long as we have the date in advance.
Yeah, and it seems like at this time it'd be more appropriate when we're actually having the public hearing.
Yeah.
For them to weigh in than on an informational meeting,
Yep.
right?
so Mike, do you have that report?
I can generate the report
Okay, so
quickly.
generate the report, shoot it to us. Like I said, I'd like to have another meeting in June, and then we can take this all up. I'll give everybody plenty of notice. But let's go on to number 5 then, and we'll table 6 when we get there.
So motion to take item 5 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5 is an order filed by Councilor Vacon that guardrails be installed on Route 202 near the entrance of Ashley Reservoir and across the street from the entrance due to ongoing traffic safety issues.
And I see that, Mike, you put recommendations on your sheet here?
Well, looking at the map and the length of guardrail that would be needed, and a unit price of $45 per foot for guardrail, which comes from Mass DOT. The estimate would be a little over $12,000 to put guardrail in on the side of 202 opposite of the entrance. I think what is the intent to prevent people from parking on the side of the road, and
Yeah. Largely.
because usually you use guardrail where there's a drop off, where there's some sort of structure that you wouldn't want people to inadvertently hit. But if we're just trying to, there is a no parking sign already there.
Oh, they park underneath them, they park on top of
yeah.
them, they practically park in the people's driveways on Sunset.
So there are 2 other options that we looked at. One would be bollards, where you would put a bollard or some sort of obstruction on the side of the road.
Is that a concrete thing?
It could be concrete, it could be a wooden post,
Oh, okay.
to look more, rural for the area. But you would want those at a certain interval to try to prevent people from still parking in between the posts. But if we did something like bollards, we'd be looking at around $4,000 for a cost to have it installed. And then another thing are flexible ground posts. Those are the vertical strips of plastic that have
That
a
are
reflector.
About this wide?
Yeah, and you put those could go in the ground in the dirt section. They're $25 each.
I've seen those in other communities, and to me, those seem extremely effective for where you've got the cars that have to queue to take the left, and you've got people, this is no word of a lie, they're going head-on at the cars coming up in the single lane, because they're gonna take a left. But the road isn't wide enough to have the left lane yet. That's what they do up there. It's insane. But those, I think, would be very effective there.
And they're
Seems
inexpensive
cost
too,
effective too.
relatively,
Seems cost effective.
Yeah.
when you compare it to guardrail.
But
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't you just drive over it?
It
Oh,
would-
totally. Yeah, you can totally just plow through those plastic ones.
But you're not likely to, because I mean, they are a visual barrier. I mean, you're gonna be running over something.
I mean, is it anything that, the gates that lead you into Ashley? I mean, could we push them in another 50 feet? I mean, you know, the gates are kind of a joke anyways. They're just more for you, because you get there and you can go right around, you know,
Right.
when it's blocked. I mean, the gates are just for aesthetic
But-
purposes.
but
It's not like
with
the
a
whole.
vehicle.
No, right, I agree, but I'm not saying,
Walking, yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying, or you got a dirt bike or a bicycle or anything, you can simply go,
yeah.
there's no, the entire Ashley Reservoir is not fenced in.
No, you could just walk through the trees.
So,
Yeah.
is this a conversation we should be talking to Dave Conti, being like, hey, Dave, push him in another 100 feet so we can get another 75 feet of people being able to park down there?
That would be a conversation with him.
No, but I'm just.
Yeah, we don't have any
No,
any control over it.
would that just mean there'd be, instead of 200 people going there every day to go running, would it mean there would be 400 and we'd still have people parking on Ashley? Or Sunset?
It's crazy up there.
I think the issue you're presenting is regardless of how many spots are there,
You could
it's
make
it's just not enough
200 more
space.
spots.
not enough space.
And it's not a park. And I think the problem is it's become so popular because there's been so many events there.
With like
Yeah.
the turkey run and,
There's so many events, there's people, most of the people, or many of the people going there aren't from Holyoke. Half the people from Holyoke can't get in there anymore. It's jammed up. But the people in the neighborhood are getting treated, they're rudely, they're getting flipped off, sworn at, and everything else, because people are, you know, they have to park right next to the reservoir to go for their walk. I mean, it's sort of crazy.
so, I mean, it seems like we could try, for 2,500 or 2,250, we could try a simple fix and see if it works.
Right, and I can find that in my existing budget somewhere. I wouldn't be able to get the 12,000.
No, right, it would be,
I would be happy to try anything, because 202 is becoming a real hazard. And as soon as the weather gets good, I don't care how many no parking signs you have up there. They're
but is,
all over.
is 202 our I mean, is the guardrail our responsibility, Route 202? I mean, isn't that, the state won't throw us help?
Well, we're using a guardrail to prevent parking on
But
the
it-
side of the road.
But it's against the law to park on 202.
It is, but they would, I think if the state were to do anything, they would be looking at these lower cost.
Well, right, and I
options,
mean,
yeah.
I'm not opposed to that, but with the signage for the trail, it's becoming a parking lot up there too.
But is that DOT? That Route 202? Now that there's no more,
I know we plow it,
We maintain it, but it
Yeah.
is for regs, a state road still, right?
Correct, yeah.
For parking. But then the police said if we didn't put up the no parking signs, they couldn't enforce them, and I'm thinking, even though it's a state law that there's no parking, so we put them up.
But if the enforcement's not happening, then
Well, so I have been told that if people call, they have come out more than once. So I don't know, it's the endless story, you know, of enforcement being a challenge.
so you're the maker of the order. Mike says he can find the dough, flexible ground post, and see how
I'm
we
there.
make a run of it and see how
I'd
it
like to
goes.
give that a try. I'd like to go the least expensive option to see if it would be effective and improve the safety down there.
all right, we'll do that.
So the motion would be that the order's been complied with and that we adopt it with the recommendation from the DPW superintendent of the flexible ground post option for 2250, which he has stated is in his budget.
Somewhere.
Right.
What about my crosswalk?
I'm working on
We
that.
gotta talk about that.
I'll
That's
second.
fine.
It's a bargaining.
So we have a second, so all in favor?
I thought it was gonna be on this agenda, but I didn't see it, so I
Oh,
didn't know.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. My crosswalk.
Here's my jacket. You can see if it's in the jacket.
I don't think we can put it on because
So an update for that, this is a crosswalk on
Camden.
Camden Street by Stop and Shop.
Yep.
We've submitted a complete streets prioritization plan to the state. That is included in it. The prioritization plan has been accepted. The next phase is to submit for what would be constructed within this next year. That crosswalk was what we submitted for what we would construct, and we're waiting to see if we get approved.
Is that the entrance going on to Hamden Street?
This is right across
Yeah.
from Stop and Shop.
No, right, yeah, that's street, but I'm saying, so you're coming out of stop, the crosswalk you want at that entrance on Hamden
Right.
Street? That's okay.
It's there. It's just it's just painted lines, and so we're requesting an upgrade, which we did an order, we all voted on it, to do it like a
Right.
solar,
It would be a signal,
Yeah.
the rapid
Signal.
flashing
Yeah.
beacons.
thank you.
Take a motion to take item,
Oh,
Six
six,
off the table.
which we're tabling, so moved?
all in favor?
Aye.
So,
Just for a minute,
Sure, of
under
course.
6, if I can, through the chair to Mike, in the
Absolutely.
meantime, before we can do the hearing, can we still put up the no parking at the end near 202 on Sunset and the no left turn off of Ashley? Till we can get to the place where we're doing the other things? Those were already approved separately.
Okay.
People are saying, if you just try the little things first, see what good that can do. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, I'd really appreciate it, and you probably might get a call or two from there too, because they're calling me.
So you're comfortable tabling it, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, so motion to table item 6?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I've got number
For the
8,
report and
Yeah,
invite
we're just gonna,
HCC.
I'm sorry?
got 8 and 10. are my
Yeah,
other ones.
7 is going,
Okay.
we're getting rid of that right now. As many of you know, well, can we just make a motion to take up item 7, please?
So take up, item 7 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7 is an order that gives FCC ruling, that the recent FCC rulings on net neutrality, the city council invite representatives of HG&E to discuss public access to broadband, fiber, and the G's ability to provide free city-wide Wi-Fi. Order somehow ended up in my jacket. It's not meant to be. I've been asked that we send it to public service.
So a motion to refer item 7 to the Public Service Committee?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I do 8?
Yes.
Motion to take item 8 off the table. It's been a long day.
All in favor? Item number 8 is that the Hoyoke PD monitor motorists speeding on Lawler Street and report findings to this committee, the Public Safety Committee. I have in my hands a report from Chief Nayswanger, city councilors, David Bartley, Peter Tallman, and Jim Leahy. They ordered the above speed limit on Lawler Street is 30 miles an hour, and the police department can conduct a speed study survey to determine if the limit should be decreased to 25. If the police department concludes the speed needs to be reduced, they petition the Mass DOT for approval. The police traffic trailer was placed on Lawler Street. The traffic trailer data showed that the average volume of cars traveling on Lawler Street was 270 a day, 269 to be exact. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. The average speed was 14. The 85th percentile speed was 17 miles an hour. So this is, I'm just paraphrasing, they're going almost half what the speed is. Over the past 3 years, there were only 3 car crash reports taken on Lawler Street. One was for backing out of a driveway and striking a parked vehicle, one for a parked vehicle being sideswiped by an unknown vehicle, and one for a stopped vehicle being rear-ended. Lawler Street does not have speed bump installed in the roadway, which may, in fact, help with the reduced speeds. Does have speed bumps, my apologies. Right, speed humps. Well, he said bumps, I'm just reading what the chief wrote. So I would say, yes.
Motion that the item's been complied with?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's interesting how it can
Motion to take
also
item 9 off the table?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 9, just trying to find these orders here. The street they're all out. Item 9, we may have to table because I do not have the report in front of me. I have 5 different reports for Lawler Street, all addressed to different city councilors, all different lengths.
Nothing on Hillside?
Nothing on Hillside. Lawler, I mean, unless he, it could have, the chief could have possibly just cut and paste, I don't know.
These all say Lawler.
Yeah, and these three, I'll say louder too.
Okay, so motion to table item 9, since we don't have the report from the police
Second
department.
that.
Thank you. Okay.
Motion to take item 10 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Item 10 is a report that the city accept Liberty Street, which runs from Dartmouth to Jefferson, as an accepted city street. The city is looking to pave the street using Chapter 90 funds this summer, and as we know, street acceptance is a requirement for that funding. This order was filed by Jim Leahy.
So yeah, it looks like you filed the order back in 2015, and to my knowledge, the street has been accepted, and it was paved in that timeframe, 2015.
Okay, motion has been complied
So we
with.
comply with?
You guys are gonna have like a robust report. Check, check, check.
So the motion on the table is that the motion has been complied with. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn? Or
Can I
is there-
ask one quick
course,
question
yep.
relative to number 8? Because I noticed that Mike put in some language about adopting Mass General Law relative to the street by street and reducing the speeds, and I thought we did that.
You did in ordinance, and it was tabled. There was discussion, at least my recollection is it was tabled. There was discussion on whether or not it would be a citywide or a case-by-case basis.
I'll go
And-
back and look at that, because I thought it came to the council, but, so I'll double check that.
Okay. And I think there was, at the time, there was movement to go on a street-by-street basis.
Would you recommend that?
No, I would
No?
recommend citywide,
Oh,
only because it would make things easier on people traveling through the city. Where if, once they come into the city, they see a sign that says, thickly settled business zones, 25 miles per hour. And that's just a blanket statutory speed limit throughout the city.
do you
Otherwise,
it'll make a difference?
yes. I think it would, with time. It might not day one, but over time.
I will look into that, because I thought we already took it up in city council, but I will double check.
And the other thing it would help do is where the statutory speed limit's 30 miles per hour, like Lawler Street. Let's say hypothetically those speed humps weren't there and people were traveling down Lawler at 34 miles per hour. That additional 4 miles per hour isn't too significant, but if the statutory speed limit is 25 miles per hour and they're still traveling 24, that is significant, and that would warrant further traffic calming measures like the speed humps.
Okay. All right. I will look into that, and make sure if we didn't do it, we do, and if we did, I'll find out.
Yeah, I remember it being a street-by-street basis, and the ward councilors and at-large councilors were gonna come up with a list of streets that they felt would warrant a 25 mile per hour speed limit.
Okay. But you think it'd be better, just cleaner and clearer to do citywide? All right,
Absolutely.
thanks. Sorry, thank you for your indulgence.
Okay.
Denise.
Of course, clearly.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, thank you.
Good.
So I wanna have another meeting in June, because there's really nothing in the jacket. I'm gonna I have to tell you.
Let me know. Thank you.